Hello, everybody. It's Greg here. I'm trying this new thing, which is to share my screen, which I know a lot of the other vloggers and podcasters and everyone knows how to do. But to me, this is new alien technology, so I'm going to try and see if this works. But today's topic is one that's close to my heart, which is men's mental health. And I'm going to use the video I'm going to be showing you as a springboard into the subject and why it's important. The interview you're about to see is Megyn Kelly interviewing Laurence Fox after he was sacked from his job at GB News for a comment he made in an interview, not this one, another one. And the reason he made those comments is because of another interview on a panel session that is within this. So let's just open this and start this.
That were very dismissive of male suicide. I actually listened to you on trigonometry, which I love too, a great podcast. And they cut a very nice soundbite from the exchange that set this whole thing off. I stole their cut of it because I liked how they did it. Here is the thing that got Laurence upset. He made comments then in response in GB News, which got him ultimately fired and I think now in jail. Here's what she said.
A Conservative MP, new role would champion issues such as reducing male suicide. Would that be something you'd be in favour of?
Well, what's interesting about that is the hostility it sometimes faces whenever it comes up. I saw a programme where there was like a feminist academic and a Lib Dem MP, and they were so hostile to this idea. And I thought, if you flip those things, i.e. that it's the biggest cause of death for men under 50 is suicide, men are less likely to go to the doctors, men are less likely to maintain friendships. If that was for women, we'd often look at, well, why is society making that happen? Whereas with men, the argument is often, why are they doing that to themselves?
That's an important point he makes there, because it is the case that if you're a man and you feel anxiety, or especially if you're feeling suicidal, if you were to make that known to anybody, the questions would be, well, why is he making himself feel like that? What's he done that's caused that? Whereas, like the man there says, if it were, women's mental health, it would be exactly what he said. What can we as a society do to amend this? Let's continue.
So I'm not like totally wedded to the idea, but the hostility towards the idea, I find it instructive.
Ava?
I think that it feeds into the culture a little bit, this Minister for Men argument. Like that, in my mind, I think there should be a Minister for Mental Health, which.
Right, so instantly the feminist on the panel brings up like the culture war, and that makes this a male versus female issue rather than a separate issue on its own, which is men's mental health, just as there is the topic of women's mental health. But let's continue.
Be all encompassing. I mean, you've got something like 7 million children waiting for prescriptions for mental health at the moment. It's a crisis that's endemic throughout the country, not specific to men.
Well, no, it's not specific to men, but if we don't talk about men's mental health, then nothing will get done about it.
And I think, a lot of ministers kind of bandy this about to sort of.
You can already see the look on her face, which says like, oh, this isn't a big issue. Come on, let's forget about men.
I'm sorry, but make an enemy out of women, I think, not you.
What's that about? Like make an enemy out of women for talking about men's mental health. This is where this feminist mindset is at. It's like, man, you don't talk about your mental health, like you're fine.
And I don't think your book
I don't accept that. I don't think it is to make an enemy. If we looked at during COVID, men were literally more likely to die from COVID. I don't.
That's one point.
Really want to cast myself as a meninist or one of these guys from
sure.
the manosphere, because that's not who I am. But I do find it interesting that sometimes the arguments tend to throw it
But
back.
who was doing all the work during COVID? A lot.
Wow, right there. Just right there. Who was doing all the work? Well, were men not like helping with that as well?
All the time, if you looked into people's households, it was the women who were taking on the laundry, the school care, all of that.
I'm not disputing any of that. What I'm saying that there are specific issues that men face that might warrant specific attention.
Correct.
I mean, literally, the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. That is an arresting statistic.
That's a terrible
that
statistic.
Warrant specific attention. Mental health is an umbrella issue.
I have to say that it's also because women are unsuccessful. That is a lot of that.
I mean, okay, really?
Feeds into that statistic.
But it feels like, it just doesn't feel like you've got any space for this idea that men might have unique challenges to face them.
Bang on. She has no space in her small head for that.
Well said. He was exactly right. When you watch the longer clip, you can really, I feel the frustration you felt. She is dismissive at every turn. Over and over, he tried to say, look, because there is a minister for women. He was just trying to say, look, men have their own specific mental health issues, and this is the leading cause of death for men under 50, and we really might need somebody to help start looking into this.
Correct.
No. Even when he said, look how many men died during COVID. And her response was, but look who's doing all the work inside the house.
Just can't even.
What did she do? She was the one making it a tit for tat.
She wouldn't even acknowledge it. Wouldn't even acknowledge that men might be suffering.
That issue, refusing to acknowledge the problems. Let's just start there.
She displays quite a lot of misogyny, and I think, genuine misogyny, which is like women did all the housework and all that stuff. I'm a single father. I raised my 2 boys. I do all the housework. It's like, if we're looking for equality in the gender roles, then we should look for genuine equality in the gender roles. What she did, and what really upsets me to this moment, is diminish the idea that men suffer too.
You can tell he's impassioned about this. He does get quite emotional at times during this, and you can tell, obviously, the reason he said the thing he said in the first place, which I should probably point out if you don't already know at this point, was that he was interviewed after having seen that, and basically said if a guy met that woman, the feminist woman, in a pub, and heard the things that she was spouting and having to say about men, his exact words were, "Who would want to shag that?" But what you find out later on in this interview is that the reason that he used that language is because she herself says that term all the time about men. But the moment he says it, he has his whole career taken away. As has been spoken about, he was fired from GB News and may have to even leave the country. So this is how seriously it's taken when a man says something, but women can be dismissive of men's suicide like it wasn't an issue. And that's the important thing here.
And it's like, how dare you? And then turn around and say to me, "Oh, you're a misogynist." It's like, I'm not a misogynist. I'm just going. My point was badly made, right? I could have expressed it a lot better. But my point is, how dare you belittle the suffering of men? Because when they take their own lives, of which I know at least 2, that sear into my mind on every.
I had a friend who took his own life also a few years back, so that's probably another reason that I relate to this quite strongly. So.
Every single day, they didn't say anything. They didn't speak up, exactly because of women like her, who belittle the idea that men also feel and think
100%
and worry and take their own lives. As you quite rightly pointed out, it's an arresting statistic.
It's a terrible, scary statistic.
So still to this day, a week later, I'm sat there going, God, I'm so angry with you. I'm so angry with that comment being allowed to pass like it.
As he should be, as all men should be upset that happened in that interview.
Like nothing in the night. I'm appalled that we live in a country that allows that to happen.
The callousness of her tone and the way she addressed this very serious issue. And I feel it too, Laurence. I haven't, thank God, lost anybody in adulthood to this, but my cousin shot himself in the head and died when he was 16. And it was the most horrific event of that piece of our family's lives. They've never fully recovered. It's absolutely deeply alarming. And like so many other men and boys, he succeeded, quote unquote, on the first try.
Yeah,
and there was no warning. They didn't know. This is the pattern with men and teenage boys. They don't reach out for help. They don't get diagnosed with anxiety or depression. And even when they do, they're mocked.
Exactly this. And you wonder why, men now why men's mental health is such a big issue now. It's because men don't feel like they can, express it when they need to. I have friends now that I've spoke to recently that are in a dark place themselves, and they even said to me, I feel like, I can talk to you when I feel like that. And I'm glad that they feel like that. And that's an important thing I want to be a takeaway from this video, is that if you are a man who's suffering, or any age of male who's suffering and with mental health issues and feels in that dark place, like you're on maybe borderline suicidal, or you feel like you could end up going there, reach out to someone, even if it's a friend, like any of my friends that watch this, you can talk to me, message me, and I'll speak to you about it. It's like, I don't like the idea that anyone out there feels completely alone and like they have no one, because what you might find actually is that there's a lot of people who love and care about you. You just can't see it when you're in that space. And I know what that space is like myself, so I'm there for anyone who needs to speak about that. But let's continue with this.
They're mocked for it. And yet when they try to kill themselves and they try to die by suicide, they succeed at it. It's not a cry for help. They really want to end it. And it's part of because the reason is we stigmatize mental health. Yeah. We make them seem weak if they want mental health. And
that's a huge thing as well. It's like the stigmatization of it as a man, particularly. It's like you're weak if you show any like chinks in your armor, as it were. Like you're not allowed to have weaknesses, or you're not a real man. And it's like that mentality is why a lot of men don't speak out about how they feel and why they end up killing themselves, because of the volcano of tumult inside themselves that has to come out somehow. So yeah.
She did on that show is hashtag part of the problem.
Yep.
Yeah, because look, we're facing, and all of us would understand that we're facing a massive underreporting of sexual assault in women. And I don't have any female friends who have not had A, really unwanted male attention, or B, a lot worse. You know, I don't have any female friends who've not been through that. So what she's doing essentially is she's undermining her own cause to turn herself into the victim of a situation. And I think that's absolutely morally repugnant. So, like, it's amazing that it makes me emotional even now. It upsets me to hear her say that and to belittle it, because I've spoken to people who were driving behind someone in a tank in Basra during the war in Iraq, and the tank slipped off the passageway and turned over into a marsh. And they had to comfort someone or an entire tank crew as they sank into the mud and died. And the person that came back was not the person I knew. I didn't know them. They were like a different human being. And you can have all the conversations about the war and everything like that and all of that sort of stuff. But the man that I saw was not the same man that I saw when he went away. And we can talk about the fact that women have less opportunities in life. I would say that women have as many opportunities in life as men do if they want them. You're living proof
these
of
days,
it.
For sure.
Yeah, and but we can also turn around and say that men, 99% of people who die in war are men. Formally, as opposed to civilian casualties, and this idea of masculinity being in.
I don't know, like I can't verify the validity of some of these war statistics, so I don't know on that one. But obviously, like he's saying, men who do go away to war and come back with real PTSD and traumatic. I've been through traumatic things and seen like things that no one should ever see and been affected that way. Viscerally affected by what's in front of them. And those are people that obviously genuinely need help, and probably I'd say probably a large portion of the suicide statistics is people who've been in that situation. So it's a real thing.
Some way toxic and part of a culture war, which is what she did, which was to diminish the idea that her fellow human beings, created equal in the eyes of God, are in some way being used as part of a culture war. I find.
That's another thing, is this whole cultural war thing. It's like that's what this woman, I think her name's Ava, at the beginning was doing with that, pitting it as men versus women from the get-go, when the other guy on the panel was just trying to make a point about that men's mental health was men's suicide was a serious issue, and she immediately turned it into well, no, I don't know, that just that horrible look on her face, like like sort of like, it's like you clearly hate men and you clearly like are quite happy with that statistic, so that's why she said that. But
I find repellent. I don't have any other words for it. And I wasn't able to control myself. And what I should have done is I should have attacked her point. But instead, I turned around and said, if you find this, if you end up with a woman like that, you're going to commit yourself to a life of misery.
Yeah, but he did also make the other comment leading to that, which was that who would want to shag that. But his point was that what he just said, but he didn't put it eloquently because he was very emotional about it, because it's a subject that affects has affected him personally, and so he did kind of lash out in that interview in a kind of brash, crass way. But should he lose his job for that? I mean, personally, I don't think so, given what the context of it was. But there you go.
That's what you're going to do, because
a lot of people would agree. Hold on, I want to get to your comments in 1 second, but let's not leave her comments yet, because what I see in this exchange is her expressing man hatred, misandry.
Correct.
And
misandry.
That's what you were responding. She's got a long pattern of it, this woman. If you look back through her social media posts, which I know you've put up, she's constantly saying, I wouldn't shag him. I'm not going to shag you. I'm not going to, this is the thing. She loves this term, and she loves.
That's what I was saying at the beginning. You know, she used that term herself, and she's not like cancelled for it. I mean, in this guy's case, literally cancelled. Like, lost his job, has lost his income to support, you know, financially to feed his children, and may have to leave the country, like over a flippant comment. You know,
to say it about men who she finds weak or offensive or what have you. And she also referred to men as the most potent or most dangerous virus of them all.
That's all you need to know about that Ava woman at the beginning. She made that comment, referred to men as the most potent and dangerous virus of them all. Like, if that doesn't stand for like extreme feminism, if that isn't their like party tagline, I don't know what is.
And then she goes out there and is dismissive over and over of the other guy who's being very respectful. His attempt to say, you know what, men have unique problems and it's manifesting in suicide. Something we should no. So you respond to what is clearly her hatred of men on some primal level. And you do it in a way that is scathing, crass, but heartfelt. You try to use humor. I was there. I watched it. I was sitting on the set watching this happen, sitting on the set over here, but I was up next on Dan's show. And I totally got where you were coming from, what you were doing. And what happens, it's like more hatred toward a man. Now the hatred this time is toward you in particular. And no one, okay, fine, you should spend what?
By the way, I'm not trying to make this video specifically as a, like, let's defend Laurence Fox kind of thing, but watching this originally, which came out a month ago, is what kind of planted the seed in my head about, like, this needs to be talked about. It's taken me a while even to do, like, a video about it, but I just felt the need because, like, this brings up a real serious, like, insidious thing in society, is that, you know, men's mental health is not taken seriously. And that whole idea of, like, it's okay to not be okay, well, it doesn't seem like that's the case if you're a man, because you will be ridiculed and it will be played down, even by your fellow men in some cases, I'm sad to say. And main takeaway, as I said from this video, I want to be is, like, any of my friends, if you're in a bad place or whatever place, don't feel like you can't reach out to me. And I hope that my friends would do the same for their friends as well. You know, like, as it's almost like that whole band of brothers thing. Like, as guys, we do have to stick together, or, you know, people do end up killing themselves or do end up in bad mental places because they haven't got anyone to reach out to or talk to. You know, not everyone can, you know, afford therapy, and it doesn't always work for people. So, but talking does normally help, especially the people you can trust and that kind of get it or understand. So I think that's an important thing, that we do have to talk about this stuff, you know, at least in spaces where we can, that we feel safe to do so.
1 minute talking about the way in which Laurence expressed himself, but 0 minutes were devoted to why, to anything she said, to any of her comments. And so I really think that's one of the reasons why you're feeling traumatized. That's my word. I think you're feeling that, like, it's happening to you.
Yeah.
But I let down men in that situation because I should have said.
I think that's a hard thing for him to take on there, saying, like, I let down men. I don't think he let down all men. I think he let himself down a bit by, you know, voicing so knee-jerkly, but we all do sometimes. So I don't think he can be, like, he has been hugely chastised, where I don't think he should have been as badly as he has been.
I should have attacked her point. That would have been better. Because the point is weak. She's weak in what's the point in responding to some shock jock who wants to turn up on TV and say these horrible things and try and increase her profile?
Yeah, it's just trying to get a reaction, I suppose.
For what reason? I do reflect and I do try and adopt some humility in this situation. And I thought I let down the side of the argument of the men. Many thousands of people have contacted me with messages of their partners, their male partners, killing themselves. And this is, as Jeff Norcross quite rightly pointed out on the show, men are killing themselves in great numbers. They're being toxified. They're being, I'd hate to say this in a way which wasn't nuanced, but very, very feminized. And it's very, you know,
that's an issue as well. The idea of the feminization of men, like, men aren't allowed to be men like they were a long time ago, and that's a very contentious issue. And, you know, like, I'm not really going to get into all that, but it is important. An important factor in this is that men have got to be seen in a certain kind of like feminized, like watered down way to be accepted in society these days. And if you're not, then you're going to get like attacked for it. He basically has for an offhand comment he made that someone like in a pub you went to like might make, but he obviously forgets in that situation. He's on like not television as such, but live on the internet, so I need to be a little bit careful about what he's saying. But it is sad the way society has gone. But
I feel I let myself down, actually. And that's the bit that upsets me. I should have just turned around and taken her point and attacked it with everything I have, because that's what I usually do. But this particular issue just stigmatized. It got me. In woke parlance, it triggered me so much.
Triggered him on the other side of the coin of like sort of men being feminized and stuff. There's the other side of it, which is like if you do have those like chinks in your armor and you're seen as weak, you're told to man up and go and just go. I mean, and there is some positivity to saying, come on, just face life head on, stiff upper lip, that old kind of British attitude of, like, just, let's go and face life head on, let's get on with it, come on, like, but a lot of that pushes what you're feeling on the inside down to the point that somewhere along the line, all of that is going to come back up. And if you don't deal with it, that can be quite destructive. So that's an important point to make here as well.
That I just thought, who would want to shag that? And I'm sorry, I'll say it again.
I mean, he's been cancelled for it and lost his job for it, but it's kind of funny, isn't it? I mean, it's like, it's not the best thing to say, and it is a bit chauvinistic, but it's not. I don't think he said it to be taken seriously about that line, but he was using that as a way of almost like, what's the word? It's like finding the humor in, or sort of like squashing her side of things just a little bit to give men that little bit of friggin', like breathing room and respect that the mental health issues deserve for men, Yes, he went about it wrong. And I'm not trying to defend that because I'm going to end up getting attacked for that, but it's,
Now that I've been fired, which man, what self-respecting man would want to find himself in a relationship with a woman who hated men that much?
True. And that's the end of that interview there. But I think it's true. And I think, he does make a valid point there. And I'm going to end this in a moment. But I just wanted to share that because a lot of people won't have seen that video. And I know if I'd have just shared it as it was, a lot of people wouldn't have watched it anyway. But he made him and Megyn Kelly made some very valid points there about men's mental health. And the fact is, it is a serious issue. And bottom line from this is, it's going to look like I'm taking a side being on Laurence Fox's, side and stuff. But I don't know enough about him as a person to defend, anything else that he stands for. But on this particular issue, we agree. So that's what I'm putting across. But the main thing I wanted to be the takeaway from this is, if there's any men out there, especially friends of mine who are feeling low or particularly in a dark place, you can reach out to me. You're not as alone as you think you are in the moment. Because I know I've been there myself at times, like feeling like, you're stuck in a situation and there is no way out. But, like there's an only way out, but that's not the only way out. You can get through things. And I think if we talk about them more in, like, it's a bit of a woke term, but safe spaces, as it were, where you feel like you can talk about it. Because, you can go to work. A lot of time you feel like you can't really talk about this in your work environment because people will attack you for it or like see you as weak and then trample on you for it. And you don't want to be in that situation. Ideally, nobody does. But you can talk about it man to man or just across sending a message and things like that. And I think it's important that as guys, we do that so that we don't feel so bogged down by our own anxiety, insecurities, and the more depressive side of our nature, and but then we can focus on the more positive aspects of ourselves and our lives. But that's about all I have to say on it for now. I just wanted to share this, especially this being like November, which has been kind of adopted as Movember for however long that's been going. It is a good time to talk about men's mental health, and this had been weighing on my mind for a bit, so I thought I wanted to share this. But I hope this has been helpful. If it triggers anybody, I'm sorry, but it's just something I felt I needed to talk about and discuss. And also, I hope Laurence Fox is doing okay.